Did your obsession with true crime start around your breakfast table as a kid, pouring milk on your Cheerios?
If you demanded that your parents show you your birth certificate after reading the popular young adult novel, The Face on the Milk Carton, you might be a Xennial reader, and we are too. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie.
And I'm Dani, and you are listening to Generation In Between, a Xennial podcast, where we revisit, remember, reread today, and sometimes relearn all kinds of things from being an 80s kid and a 90s teen. And today, for some reason, unbeknownst to me yet, we are discussing the 1990 book and the concept that inspired The Face on the Milk Carton by Caroline B. Cooney.
Yes, that is right. So, listeners, this was a Katie idea.
If it's true crime, you know it's Katie.
And we'll get into the why. I mean, it's not very exciting, but we'll get into the why. So Dani's here for the ride.
Always.
But I will say she did do a little bit of research on her end. So we'll get to that. But before we do that, I just quickly wanted to thank you listeners for all that you do. February 2025 was our highest download month to date.
Hey.
So thank you so much. And our downloads, we use a platform called Buzzsprout.
Hey, Buzzsprout.
Yes. And those don't even count our YouTube views, of which there are not that many. But I'm like, it's that number plus a few more. So
how is it possible we're not viral on YouTube?
I don't know. I mean, maybe after today, because if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you can see our outfits.
Oh, yeah. We're wearing our matching JCPenney onesuits because it was time and we got to do some reels and we need some theme wear.
We really do. Theme wear it is. And so I just wanted to say thank you. And if you have not left us a review yet, please leave us one wherever you listen. Just 5 stars, absolutely free. Take you 30 seconds, maybe a minute. This really helps other people find us. We've had a few people say that now that the algorithms gave it to them. Someone,
what?
Oh no, her name's escaping me. I'll find it before the next one. Was like, I just found you guys and I love it and I'm listening to everything, and it's not like a friend of a friend or anything.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
She found us, I believe, in Spotify. We were suggested. Yeah, so that's what your reviews do. They bring us new listeners. So we really, really appreciate that. And of course, if you can't get enough of our regular episodes, you can become a patron over on Patreon or an Apple subscriber. And both of those, I should say an Apple paid subscriber, both of those will give you all of our bonus content and access to some fun stuff. Dani is definitely, I am boring, Dani.
So
I don't know how in this outfit. And
I'm sorry.
But somehow.
No, I haven't had my coffee yet, and I'm not sleeping good. I had a nightmare last night that I was pregnant.
Oh,
guys, I'm 44, going on 45 this year. That is a nightmare. Anyways, I'm sorry. I apologize, Katie.
That's okay. And then I had a coffee emergency because I had such a long day yesterday. Not bad, but I went on a field trip with 98 4th, 5th, and 6th graders.
Lord have mercy.
To an assisted living place. So there was just a lot happening. And then we went to the mall food court. And then we came back. And then I taught lessons for like 5 hours in a row. So I get home and I'm getting ready for the morning because I was like, I'm just going to put on my PJs and chill. Dishes were done. But everything else can wait. Like I can fold towels tomorrow. I need a break. And I was getting my coffee set up, the Hamilton Beach coffee maker that I can program. I'm like, cool, I'm going to hit the little buttons and then I'll have coffee in the morning. Yay. Remembered in that instant, I was completely out of coffee. Like, usually I have like, I don't know, like a gift bag or Christmas flavor or something. Not a bean anywhere. And I had already poured a little bit of wine because of the day. And I was like, I do not want to go back out.
You're done. You're checked out. Like once you get home, I feel that.
I can't go back out. I cannot do anything else that takes executive function today.
Once the shoes and the bra come off, it's over.
It was over. I was in PJs. I was in sweatpants. It was done. And so I was going to just ask my neighbor. And then I remembered my daughter was at Dani's house that very second. So I was like, ooh, I bet Dani could spare a couple scoops of coffee. And instead she sent me this bag, not huge, but a really fancy coffee.
I feel bad because it was part of this pack that Troy got for Christmas. And so I don't know if he was saving it, but now it's gone.
No.
It's been there. I mean, it's fine. It's not a big deal.
Well, I owe Troy some coffee, but it was delicious. But
it's
anyway.
It's good.
Okay. So the point of today's episode. There really isn't one.
I can't wait to hear why it popped in your brain.
So, when we talk about different things on the show, different things spark memories and little spin-off ideas. And I have no idea why, but I was just randomly like, hey, remember, in my head, I think I was walking my dogs. I was like, remember when there were faces on milk cartons?
And that was a thought that came into your brain.
My head. I was probably listening to a true crime podcast while walking, and I do have a few in here, the stories I know that do have to do with the real life. And I was like, kids today would not even like understand what that is. Whenever I have that thought, I'm like, oh, we probably need to talk about it on the podcast. And then I remembered there was actually a book, a young adult fiction book.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if Dani ever read that. And then I remembered there was a made-for-TV movie that went with that. And so that's kind of how we got where we are. So Dani, to her credit, did get the audio version of that book.
I did.
I will just say right up front, the book there are five books.
I read one, and I do not plan to read the other 4.
Don't worry, I have summaries of them.
Okay, great.
It gets to be a lot, let me tell you. But you did read it. So
I did.
First of all, we have the official summary of that first book for Dani to read, and then I want to hear how your audio listening experience went.
Okay. All right. Oh, before we get going on that, I forgot to send you something, and I will, but we have a new listener named Anthony, and he listened to our Legend episode and sent me the coolest little YouTube clip. It's about 20 minutes, and it talks about, it's this guy and this girl who I think also have podcasts or YouTube channels, or I don't know. They are talking about the differences in the European cut of the movie, the American cut, and the director's cut of Legend.
Awesome.
It was very interesting because the European guy was like, yeah, I grew up watching the European version. The female, she's American, and she's like, well, I grew up watching the American version. There's different endings. So in the European ending, Jack and Lily don't end up together.
Oh my gosh.
Lily's like, I don't belong here, I'm leaving. And so Jack runs off by himself. So it's like, I mean, it wasn't a sad thing. It was like a thank you, I love you, whatever, but peace out.
What a great adventure.
But the music is also very different. The original score is on the European. Like, it's not, we didn't even talk about the music really in our episode.
A little bit, but not,
because the American version has Tangerine Dream, but that was a redo from the original score, which was Jerry Goldsmith, who's a very popular movie composer. So if I say that name, he did like Star Trek, he did Alien, he did, I'm trying to remember some of the big ones. But anyways, so that's just one, those are just a couple of things, but it's interesting. I'll send it to you.
Okay, yeah.
I'd love to thanks for sending us that. And listeners, send us those kinds of things because we will miss stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah. And even if we've already talked about it, it's a great way to follow up.
Because I was talking to him, I was like, yeah, we get in these rabbit holes of research and we have to pick and choose what we talk about. And then we forget sometimes, but then like we miss some. Like I'm like, man, I wish I would have came across that YouTube video. Like, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Anthony. And welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast.
And if you are completely new and didn't listen to our Legend episode, it is in our feeds. Make sure you listen. That was really fun. We had our friend Jamila here, and it was a lot of shenanigans, but it was a good time.
And her daughter
was here too.
One of them.
That was a fun day.
It was a good day.
It
was a good day. All right.
So
summary.
The official summary of the young adult novel, The Face on the Milk Carton.
I'm reading this.
You're reading.
Okay.
This.
Okay. All right. The Face on the Milk Carton is a young adult mystery novel written by author Caroline B. Cooney, first published in 1990. Is the first in a 5-book series. Janie Johnson is the main character. Later adapted into a film for TV because, early 90s, late 80s, that's what you did. The book is about a 15-year-old girl named Janie Johnson who starts to suspect her parents may have kidnapped her and her biological parents are somewhere in New Jersey. These suspicions come after Janie recognizes a picture of herself on a milk carton under the heading Missing Child. Janie's life gets more stressful as she tries to find the truth while hiding the secret from her parents.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's it. Okay.
Full stop honesty.
Yes.
I was thinking this was a fictional book based on a real true crime case.
Okay.
When I started reading it. And then when it got like super ridiculous, which we'll get into, I was like, okay, this cannot be real. And then I was like, so I had to stop and be like, because I didn't read the summary. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
I didn't read the summary or anything. Katie's like, we're going to do this. And I looked up the audiobook, and it's a young adult book, so it's short. So it's like 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to everything on super speed.
Mm-hmm.
So I knocked it out in like a few days. But I totally thought it was a real story. And then it just got ridiculous. And I'm like, there's no way. And I'm like, oh, correct. It's fiction.
It is fiction. There is at least one reported case of an actual kid recognizing themselves on a milk carton and it leading to them being reconnected with their family. However, it was a custodial parent situation, not a stranger abduction, which is what the book is about. Sort of.
Yeah.
But they're not family members that take her.
Right.
And I have it later in my notes, but her name's Bonnie something, and she had been kidnapped by her father and stepmother, and they couldn't find her, and then she saw herself on a milk carton that led to eventually being reunited with her mom.
You know,
yeah.
I can't wait to hear your research about this.
Oh yeah.
Because I like do you want me to tell you what I thought of the book now? Or you want me to wait?
Tell us.
Or you want to do research?
No, it's okay. Tell us.
Well, number one, I love young adult books.
Mm-hmm.
I am not an adult who scoffs at reading young adult books because I think a lot of them are really good.
Mm-hmm.
This is not one. And I feel like it just didn't hold up against the time. Like it just didn't. And it was just like, okay, first of all, I haven't read any other writing by this author, but it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, I am not even like a writing expert like Katie. I don't have any background education in that, but the writing was bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was not good. It did not flow. It like stuff would just happen and you were like, what? Like,
yeah.
Excuse me? That makes zero sense. That doesn't go. Like, I don't know. It was weird. And then like, I felt like she just threw in like making out and stuff.
Yeah.
With a boy in the midst of this girl going through this crisis of, am I abducted? And are these psychos with my parents? And she's like, oh, let me go hook up in a truck right quick. Hello?
Right. And he actually sticks around for all 5 books. There's a book that's almost completely about him, the boyfriend.
Oh my, Reeve. Okay, but I do like that name.
I do too.
But it was not a good book. I was so glad when it was done. I was like, the narrator was okay. But again, this was from 1990.
Right. I think too, I mean, in young adult books, I feel the same way. There's some great ones out there. Obviously, we've got classics, older classics like Judy.
Like Judy Blume
and people like that.
And Beverly Cleary, done.
But I think the quality level of adult books, young adult books now is just so high too.
Oh, that's true. But no, because Judy Blume was a long time ago.
But
Beverly Cleary
she might have been an exception, both of them. I don't know that like the general reading of young adults, and that I did not research, but like,
well, you don't need to, it's fine.
But no, I mean, I think that that's totally fair, and it's a bummer because on concept it's a really good concept. Like, you're a teenager,
like the storyline,
the storyline's great.
And, I mean, it'd be a good mystery.
I think it was light on the like detective mystery part and heavy on like the emotional whatever. And then the cult stuff is kind of weird.
Listen, for those of you who have not read this book, now, did you read this as a kid?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I did, because it seems like everybody probably did. Like, there were some books like everybody just kind of read.
Yeah, I think so too.
As soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah. But then I asked a couple people about it, and they had no idea what I was talking about.
Okay, weird. It's weird that we both had sort of a collective memory of it.
And I thought it was real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew it wasn't, but I knew that it was probably based on some things. So let's get into the research.
Yeah, let's hear about that.
So first of all, especially if you're a young person, you're probably asking 2 questions. Why is there a face on a milk carton? And what is a milk carton? Granted, they have them still at schools.
Do they still have them?
Yes.
Remember when we
had
not
the face, but the cartons.
Remember when we had the plastic pouches that look like breast implants?
Oh my god! And you would just like rip the thing off and like,
no, you'd poke it the straw in, and it would always shoot out the top. Do you remember that?
Yes. Juice too. They had juice.
Did they have juice? I think my school only had milk.
Oh.
Well, excuse me. I went to public school in Louisiana. Okay, so listen,
Milk or nothing.
I don't know what's happening.
Milk or
But
nothing.
remember those?
Yeah.
Totally look like breast implants.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yes, I do.
Breast implant milk. Look it up. 1990s.
Look it up.
Well, if you're young, you have no idea.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't. I mean, I haven't, like when I've been at school with my kids, I haven't seen those. So I wouldn't imagine.
Probably not
because
the plastic. Good Lord.
Yeah, alone would be
you
rough.
can't recycle breast implant milk.
No.
Or breast implants.
Nor drink it effectively. Or breast implants. Yeah. Either thing. Hey. So a very quick history of milk cartons. Okay.
Wow, we're going in hot today with some cool.
I don't know why I went way back, but I did.
But I'm actually ready to hear this because they started off in glass
Correct,
things.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the early 1900s in America, it was very common, and other countries, to have reusable glass bottles that you would set out, and the milkman would come, and you get new milk every day or however often they were washed and reused.
Do you know I used to something else I shouldn't even say this. When I was little, and like, not that we had glass bottles, but like, you see movies with the bottle. I thought the milkman would bring a cow.
What? To your bottles and fill them up and then just keep on walking with his cow?
I don't know. That's where my brain went, guys. Moving on.
I love that. Okay. So, but by 1915, a guy named John Van Wormer, an American inventor. Hey, John
Van Wormer?
Van Wormer.
Warmer or wormer?
Worm.
Like
an animal. Yeah.
Wormer. Okay.
Maybe not someone you want messing with your milk, but whatever. You go, John. He patented the first paper milk carton called a Pure Pack, and it was folded, but it was wax coated, and it was easier to manufacture and dispose of, obviously, than glass bottles. And by the 1950s, those were basically used everywhere.
Okay.
Schools, grocery stores, whatever. Then those got like an upgrade in the 1960s to something called a Tetra Pak. And this was like just almost like a thicker, sturdier version of the carton.
Tetra Pak.
I
remember seeing that on the carton.
I remember that too.
Like as soon as you said it.
Yeah. I think Tetra Pak is still on things like half and half.
Oh.
If you get it in a carton.
Yeah, maybe that's
I think they still use Tetra Pak for those.
Okay.
So you can find that modernly, just it's not very common for like milk.
Okay.
And so after they did all of that, it was in the 90s where plastic kind of took over. And these are these polyethylene plastic jugs that we have today, partly because people had larger quantities of milk that they could store now because of better refrigeration and just bigger consumption of everything. And so those made them easier to handle. They were resealable in a way that, like, I don't know if you remember the cartons, you have to like unfold it, like you peel it back, at least to pour it out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? I'm not describing this well, but it's like sealed.
Like, you have to peel it back.
And then you have to like fold it open and pull the middle out.
Yeah.
And then like you could store it like that, but like oxygen.
And it would get like soggy on the inside of it.
Yeah. So with plastic jugs, you don't really have to do that.
Just burn up the earth, but that's
just
fine.
Burn up the earth. Exactly. So I looked up, our milk carton's gone completely, and we kind of already touched on this. Not entirely. Schools do use them for single serving milk. And then some organic and specialty milk brands do use the paper cartons or the cardboard cartons.
I'll say the milk we buy still is in a cardboardy thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So it's still out there. It's just not as common. It used to be like the main way to get it. And you just can't really find them now.
Although you know what they do now that's annoying? They have the cardboard milk cartons, but then they have a plastic frickin'.
Right.
That's so dumb.
Like even half and half will have that or something. Yeah, exactly. So it's not all, but that's probably to avoid that seal thing that they were talking about. But I understand. Yeah, you wouldn't mind if it was all paper. Right. That'd be fine. But they're still wax coated. So it's still kind of not the easiest to biodegrade, but it's still better than plastic.
Yeah.
And there are actually plant-based cartons out there now too.
Oh,
that you can get. Okay. I don't know which brands do that, but
did you just have so much fun researching milk cartons?
I did. I was like, this all is kind of obvious, but I'm still gonna put it in my notes because what if it's not?
But I never think about it.
You don't think about it.
That's one of those things. Now y'all know. It. The more you know.
Right. The more you know. That's us.
Do. There
rainbow.
It was a star.
It was a star with a rainbow tail.
Oh, you're right. Correct.
Okay. We got it. Start with a rainbow. Okay. So, all right. So then, okay, now here we are with milk cartons. Why are there faces on milk cartons? What does that even mean? Okay. So the origins of this, and this was probably what sprung this in my mind from the true crime I've listened to. Really, it dates back to the late 70s, 1979, the disappearance of Etan Potts. He was a 6-year-old in New York City. The story is that he wanted to walk himself to the bus stop for the first time ever. You're 6. It's the 70s. It's busy New York City. And his parents let him. Never saw him again.
Every parent's nightmare. Oh, my God.
And his case was one of the first missing child cases to receive national attention because of the timing of it and the newspapers and like an average everyday person, right? Obviously, like the Lindbergh baby and all of that was big. But so he was not actually on a milk carton, but because it was, people were sort of like outraged, like, why don't we have better systems of like finding him? It kind of led to some of the reforms in the early 80s, which include the milk carton, putting children's pictures on there and declaring them missing. So decades later, they determined, decades, they didn't know what happened to this young man. He had been abducted and murdered the same day that he went missing. And it wasn't until 2017, a man named Pedro Hernandez was convicted of the murder. He was a construction worker or something in the area. And they were able to connect.
How did they even find him?
I feel like they found the body a while ago, like in the early 2000s in a home, tested the remains
in a home.
Like in like a wall or something.
What?
Yeah.
See, how do you listen to this nonsense all the time? I cannot.
Well, I will say what I find interesting is like, you would think a crime that happened in 79 by 2000 or 2015, like you don't have leads, like it's cold forever. But because of DNA and all this new technology that wasn't around then, a lot of people are finally getting convicted for things, even posthumously, like people who have passed away, but their fingerprints or DNA are in the system for some reason, are getting connected to cold crimes.
I don't know. Like, it makes my stomach hurt just to think about. I don't know how y'all listen, all you true crime junkies out there, because a lot of our listeners are true crime peeps.
I think so. Yeah.
I am so disturbed. I cannot. I don't.
It is very so bothersome.
I don't know how that's entertaining. I don't know. You guys do your thing.
I've told you before. I usually will skip over ones about kids.
Yeah.
I do remember listening to this one a long time ago. Like, it wasn't recently. And then when I was doing the research, it came up again. I was like, oh yeah, I remember listening to that one. But the ones with kids, yeah. Oof. So that was in 79.
Okay.
The first milk carton faces came around 1984, and it wasn't national, it was regional. Okay, so it was was it Idaho? I don't want to say Idaho if it was Iowa. Iowa, see? Glad I checked my notes. In Iowa.
Fact check.
Exactly. Real quick fact checking myself. Okay, so it started with the National Child Safety Council and the Anderson Erickson Dairy in Iowa. So they were a big milk manufacturer, and I'm going to say bottled it, but into cartons at their facility. And they were the first to put photos of missing children on milk cartons, and these were local. And it was inspired because there was a case, another child, Johnny Gosh, a 12-year-old paper boy from Des Moines, Iowa, who vanished on his route in 1982. He was with his dachshund, Gretchen, who came home. He never completed the route. This is one that has never been solved. He is presumed to have been kidnapped. They've never found him.
That's heartbreaking.
Yep. There's a lot of weirdness around this one too. And this is like a spin-off heartbreak of this type of stuff, especially as decades go by and you kind of hear about the parents. Like his mom, she claims he came to her house in 1997 and like basically told her he's fine, but he needs to stay off the radar because of the people who held him captive, because he was an adult by then. But he wanted her to know he was okay, but that he had to like kind of disappear and change his name and stuff. But like, she's the only one who saw him, and like there's been some question as to if that really happened and stuff like that. He would have been 27 at the time. And then, yeah, so she's not, or if it did happen, but it was a hoax. It's weird when you hear these cases, people, I don't know what's wrong with people. First of all, like abducting children, there's that. But like people who didn't have anything to do with the crime, like sending fake letters or phone calls, pretending to be the kidnapper or saying they saw the person alive. Like it happens a lot.
Really?
It happens a lot. And so parents have to like deal with that. And police, you know, go down dead end leads and it's just a whole thing.
I don't understand. Let's see. This is why I can't do true crime, guys, because I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with everybody?
Yeah, seriously.
Like,
no,
I
mean,
just, it gives me zero faith in the human race, and it's already pretty low right now.
right.
So, like,
yeah, stuff like that. It's like, oof, I don't know. So they're looking for this kid. Still to this day, I've never found him. Maybe that was him who came to his mom's house and he's out there thriving somewhere. But then 2 years after that, a different paper boy in the same area in 84, Eugene Martin, he was 13. He disappeared. He's never been heard from, nor his body found. His parents have passed away, but his brother, this was in August 2023, so not that long ago, had told a Des Moines news station that he still thinks he's alive out there and that he hopes to like see his brother in his lifetime. So these kind of back to back, and they lived near each other, like their routes were in the same neighborhood.
Yikes.
So that was kind of obviously the people in that region of Iowa were very much on high alert, which is kind of what then spilled into this whole regional dairy wanting to do something and put these faces out there. And once they started, the program quickly spread across the country with other major dairy companies wanting to participate in their own area.
Okay.
And the logic was this, right? Nearly every household had milk cartons.
Got it.
So if you put the face of a missing child on there and their name and their age and, you know, basic information about who they are and when they were last seen, it's a very simple way to get it into a bunch of households and spread awareness.
You know, they still have those like missing kid like boards at like Walmart
and the post office.
Post office. Yeah. Like they still have those.
They do. Yeah.
And it always makes my stomach turn again when I see it and see how many.
Right.
Like,
and I think it's a way to, I think part of the thought process was like those boards you're talking about, Walmart or whatever, you can avoid those if you want. You really can avoid like your milk that's sitting there in your fridge. Like you can maybe not read it if you didn't want to, but it's in your home on your table or in your fridge.
So you'll probably get to this, but did it actually do anything?
I will get to that.
Okay.
And,
I'll put a pin in me for now.
Actually, so the campaign was supported by law enforcement and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which was actually founded in 84 as well. So that was not even an organization, which if you're a true crime listener, you've probably heard that organization a zillion times. They step in to help with missing children in the FBI, and it's a huge organization. They've had a good success rate of finding children, but they were formed in 84, right around when this milk carton thing was getting started. However, the overall success rate was very low for these. I told you about the one case, Bonnie Lohman. She was reunited with her family because of recognizing herself on a milk carton. She was out shopping with her stepfather, and she saw a milk carton with her face on it. She kept the carton, which is similar to the book.
Yeah.
And showed it to a neighbor who was like, yeah, I see it. Like, I see it in your face. And they alerted authorities, and she was eventually rescued and reunited. So I said it backward earlier. She was reunited with her biological father.
So it was her stepdad that took her and her mom?
And her mom.
Okay. So it wasn't strangers. It was like a family kidnapping.
Correct. Which is the
case. Still illegal.
Yeah. That's the case with most child abductions. It's usually either a custodial parent situation or a grandparent situation. And by usually, I mean like almost all the time. Or at least someone they knew, which is still illegal and scary as hell. An actual stranger like plucking you off the street or a parking lot or whatever is or these newspaper boys like is very, very low.
Which is crazy because you remember being taught in school stranger danger.
Right. When really it should be like.
And nobody educated us back in those days about and even with child abuse or like sexual assault, it was always stranger danger.
Always.
Nobody taught us. I mean, I remember the videos. I remember watching the videos because I came home. I was a very anxious child, still an anxious adult. And I remember coming home being so upset because I was terrified of the video because it's all about stranger danger. Nobody educated us on the fact. Well, maybe they didn't have the statistics then.
They probably didn't.
To know that most of the people who harm you are those in your circle already, which is even more scary.
It's terrifying. And that's the education, right, that we need to give our kids now. And that is a little more out there and being talked about, the rhetoric that you have to watch for stuff with people you know. And sometimes it's hard to turn, like, to be like, hey, this coach or this teacher or this relative or even a parent or a step parent, like it's hard to do that. But that's most of the time, if there's harm to children, whether it's kidnapping or abuse or sexual abuse, is people they know almost all the time. So why did the Milk Carton campaign end, right? So this started mid-'80s, but really by the early 1990s, they weren't really doing it anymore. So it's a very small amount of time, which is funny because it's like ingrained in my brain. And it was because of things I've already mentioned. It did raise awareness, but not many recoveries. And most of the cases were like long-term missing children. So it made it even less effective because the photos they had, even age progression, isn't always what the person looks like. And also that kidnappings by strangers were rare. And so a lot of times when the kids were abducted, it wasn't like in public where someone would have seen something. Right. So because it was with people. And then also because they were seeing it so much, the public became desensitized to it. Like I said, just kind of not reading it or not reacting if
it's
they
like
saw
when we
it.
get Amber Alerts.
Exactly. That's so funny. Look what's next in my notes.
Oh, shit.
The Amber Alert.
Yeah.
And you just said that. But
I mean, we get them and we're like, oh, what's going on? And we're like, oh, it's an Amber Alert. And then it's like
mute.
But then, like every time my phone goes off like that, I'm like, I'm like, what do I even, I don't know.
What do I do?
What do I even do?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I will say what's great about Amber Alerts is people, like, they're only issued in very special circumstances. And what I mean by that is when they absolutely know it was an abduction and when they know who they're probably with.
Oh, gotcha.
And have more description.
Like a car or something.
Clothing or car. Like, and some people get frustrated because, for example, there was a missing person in our area recently, a teen, and they did not issue an Amber Alert.
Which is weird.
Because there was no one to look for. And so people get upset about that. Like, why is there not an Amber Alert?
And she was recovered, everybody. She
was okay, recovered and she's okay. And she had left, as far as we know, of her own volition. And people were looking for her, which is great. I think you have to, even if it ends up being like a runaway situation, you have to treat it.
Yeah.
Unless you know that for sure, you have to treat it as something else until you know. But, people get a little up in arms about that stuff with that situation. I saw it everywhere. And it's because the Amber Alert has to have specific criteria to even work. Kind of like you said, like if you just got something that's like a girl, we don't know where she went missing or who she's with. Oh, and she might be on foot. She might not. You just be like, okay. And thankfully we have things like social media sharing her photo and this is where she was last seen, etc. So the Amber Alert system was introduced in 1996, and it became a faster and more effective way to notify the public about children. So obviously we get the texts now and the alerts, but it was TV, radio, then later on internet, social media, where they could spread the information quickly. So this was, and Amber Alerts are also regional. So like someone in California is not getting an Amber Alert for Tampa, Florida, but we are. Right. Because it's meant to recover children quickly.
Why is it called Amber Alert?
It does. I don't have it in here, but it is based on a child, a little girl named Amber. I've listened to her case before, so maybe I'll follow up. Not with the whole episode. Don't worry.
I'm like panicked.
No. Or maybe before the bonus, I'll look it up real quick. But essentially, she was taken by a stranger in a store, I believe, and there was no like system in place. Like, so they tell the store people, but they don't lock down the store fast enough. So then they tell the police and the police don't get the road shut down fast enough. And so it was kind of like the kidnapper was like one step ahead the whole time. And I believe she was killed, like kidnapped and killed. And so the parents then were like, okay, we got to change some things. And that's when Amber Alert kind of became a law. Basically, like, how can we alert people way faster.
Yeah.
Because maybe someone would have seen her, or a roadblock would have stopped them, or the mall could have been shut down. There's a different name. I think it's called an Adam alert, which we've talked about when we were talking about Adam Walsh.
Yeah.
That's specific to like retail stores and public places. And it's not a law, but it's a system you can adopt as a business. If, let's say, you're at Macy's. Macy's is an Adam alert place and there's a missing kid, they have procedures to like shut down the store or whatever they're going to do. It's not just like, oh my God, what do we do? I don't know. Let's stand here and watch everybody with kids. It's like a systematic way to try to find kids quickly. So there's different levels of it, Amber and Adam. So another reason they stopped doing the milk cartons is parents, mostly parents, some child psychiatrists said that it was very anxiety producing for the kids to see this all the time on the milk cartons, which I get. So like every time you go to pour your milk, this kid's missing, this kid's missing, they were abducted at this place, and this is what happens, you know? So it made children, this is funny because this kind of sounds like what you were just saying, it made some children fear they could be kidnapped at any moment.
Oh my God, same.
Which, yes, it's better to be overly cautious, but also like you don't want to live in fear.
That's what I did. I was totally paranoid. Like I even went through like a phase where I would like OCD habits where I would like have to double check the door was locked like 10 times before I went to sleep. And even if my mom would say, Dani, I locked the door,
right,
I would have to go that many times. Because I mean, panic, like you're terrified.
You're like, I do that now. I wouldn't say every night or 10 times, but especially because sometimes my son comes home after I'm in bed. Last night my daughter came home after I was in bed, and usually my husband's up later, but I will text my kids, bolt the door when you come in.
Yeah.
And I'll like say to my husband, are all the windows closed? He's like, I think so. I'm like, are they closed or not?
Yeah,
you know, like you better shut them. And like, it's just, you know,
but you're an adult and you got people to
those
tend
are responsibilities.
For. But like when you're 9, girl, Jen's out there like diagnosing me again.
I know
it's happening.
She is.
It's fine. I already know my diagnosis.
She diagnosed herself, Jen. It's fine. Don't worry. She'll be okay. So
it's called anxiety.
Was that from the milk cartons that you had that, or was that a combination of things?
I think it was a lot of stuff. I mean, it's just, I feel like
the narrative around it.
I feel like the 80s were like, just, you know, they just scared us to death as kids. It was kidnappings. It was unsolved mysteries.
Seriously.
It was stranger danger films. Stop, drop, and roll. Did you not think you were going to catch on fire like at least once in your life?
At least once. I mean, there's still time.
But yes. Plus, I lived in a place that had, you know, severe weather, like hurricanes.
Right.
And my dad was obsessed with weather because he was an oceanographer. So he was fascinated by it. Meanwhile, I was terrified.
Right. Because he had the scientific ability and the maturity to process it differently than you.
And logic. And
logic.
You know.
That you know, as a child, obviously would not have.
Even
or as an adult,
even
I
today,
don't know. Even now.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I get it. I see. Like that's just
so
panic.
So they were kind of like, if we're not finding kids, really, and everyone's all freaked out by it, like
if
why
it's not
should
working,
we continue this process? And then also when like technology was improving, not the way that it is now as far as social media and even texting and all of that, but it was going the way where you were able to reach people other ways.
Yeah.
So anyway, even though, and we mentioned the faces on the milk cartons really didn't bring back like a high return rate of children, it did bring national attention to missing children's issues. And it did directly lead to the creation of databases for missing persons, including that National Center for Exploited and Missing Children. So before that, everything was very fragmented.
Okay.
You've got like this police station that's looking for someone, and then a state away someone's looking for something similar, and that has to do with the technology improving too. Right. But now you've got a national database that can cross-reference potential like leads, like, hey, this girl seems like maybe she doesn't belong with this family. Well, let's see, do we have a missing person? Oh, they're 3 states away, but this sounds like a match, you know. So that was partially due to this additional attention on missing children, which the milk cartons had to do with. but they're no longer on Milk Carton. So that's kind of the history of that.
Okay.
That then led to the book. So let me tell you then, you've read the summary.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what inspired the book. Did you see that other than Milk Cartons?
Did I see that?
Like, did you read it anywhere when you Googled or?
I did not Google.
Well, you said you had Googled to see if it was a true story.
Oh, true.
So I just wondered if you saw anything.
Oh, no.
Okay. So Caroline Cooney, who wrote the book, her inspiration came at LaGuardia Airport, where she saw missing children flyers, one of a toddler.
Oh.
And they were throughout the concourse. And it really like stuck with her. And like on that flight, she was imagining what it might be like if a toddler who was kidnapped recognized herself later on a poster. So that's it. That's how she was inspired to write this story.
Okay.
It did, despite your review, it has won several awards.
Stop it.
Yes.
What?
The Colorado Blue Spruce Book Award in 96.
96.
96. Pacific Northwest Library Association Young Readers Choice Award.
What?
Yes, and the Iowa Teen Book Award.
I cannot. Well, whatever. What does my opinion matter?
I'll tell you why some people really like this book. So the series itself, the series, all 5 books, has sold
5 books.
4.2 million copies.
Get out of here.
A lot.
Girl.
A lot. So authors John Bushman and Shelley McNerney, I read an article that they wrote, and they specialize in analyzing young adult literature.
Okay.
They say that the book, The Face on the Milk Carton, along with the corresponding novels that go with it, are text instructors can use to guide the development of young adults' moral reasoning. This is because the novel contains themes like self-identity, relationships with parents and peers, individual responsibility, and challenging established dynamics. And the novel's protagonist faces all of those in the context of her life.
Oh,
what do you think about that? Having freshly listened to this.
One of the things that got on my damn nerves while I was reading the book was the dynamic she had with her parents, quote unquote parents.
The one she'd been with her whole life. Like non-real parents.
That she identified as her. I only read the first book, so I don't know what happened.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Right. So they were just like overly affectionate, overly together all the time. I mean, it was like so much. It was so much. And
it was a lot.
She was like 16 calling him daddy and mommy and like, oh, daddy, I did a big kid. And they like, it was so almost like 1950s era made up family dynamics.
I feel that.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And maybe the TV movie wasn't the same, but in the book, that's how it was. So that was just
toned down a little, but they were very like,
And I was like, I'm sorry. Like they're teenagers. No, I don't care what house you grow up in.
Right. Well, there was a line, and you can tell me if you remember hearing this in the book on the re-listen.
Okay.
In the TV movie, which I did watch on YouTube, which we'll get to, her friend says something about that, like how her parents are just so like up and in everything. And she's like, well, you know how older parents are. They're just like more attached or whatever. That's what Janie, the main character, said of her parents.
She mentions them being older, but she doesn't say anything about it until she is questioning if they're her parents. She's like, oh, they are older. But so like, no, that wasn't really a thing. But it was just crazy. I don't know. I did not like that. It was annoying. To me, I was like, that was so like, I don't think you could use that in a classroom and be like,
this is real. Like,
I mean, especially now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel that.
But also, like, moral reasoning, what moral reasoning? What did she grapple with? The only moral reasoning she had was whether or not to have sex with that boy. It was.
True.
And I still don't know if they did it or not. Because, not like that matters. I don't care.
Like, stupid book, but, not telling me the answer to that.
But I was, like, I don't know. I mean, granted, it's a young adult book written in the early 90s. So there wasn't as much talk about it directly, but it would be like they were making out and then the chapter ends and I'm like, okay, well, what like did they do it or not? Because then they talk about like, it was just not guys, it was just not written well. I don't know.
Written well. You wouldn't teach it in a class.
All right, well, what do you think about?
I mean, I think it's, like I said, the concept is interesting to me. And that if that really was you, the idea of like, what would I do if my whole world that I've always accepted was questioned? And would I be willing to mess it all up, especially a very comfortable life, in pursuit of the truth?
Okay, so let's stop there and answer that. What would you do?
I think I would pursue truth, but I can think of examples, even just in like my family history without getting too into the weeds, of things that I'm like, I really should look into that. Ooh, but maybe I don't want to.
You know, yeah, I totally would want to know. I would want to know. But maybe that's just because of the family dynamic I had. But I always think too, like, if your reality, whatever your reality is, it's your reality, whether it's something that was created or not.
Yes.
So I think if you're happy with that reality, and she was,
yes,
I could see why she wouldn't want to question it. Now, if she was in an unhappy situation, there was like abuse happening or just a weird dynamic, that would probably push you to, because like for me, when I was reading the book, I was like, why the hell wouldn't she want to know? Why would you not want to know? That was like, oh, well, that's probably why. Because she's happy. Like she doesn't want to mess up her situation.
Right. And so then I guess, what is the moral that they're saying is good? Are they saying it's good then that despite everyone's world being shattered, she pursued the truth? It's not her fault, but I'm just saying, like,
I think truth should always be revealed.
Okay.
Because that's just, I mean, I'm not going to like go into the depths there, but real facts and real truth should always be revealed, even if there's discomfort, even if it disrupts your whole world. It's more important, I think, to know reality than the perceived reality.
And I think it always, like, it's so cliche, but it always comes out anyway. So you can avoid, like, she could have packaged that away, but it would always follow her around. And somehow, eventually, she would need to, like, figure it out. So for those that haven't read the book, and we did read the summary, just a real quick, she thinks she sees her face on the milk carton. She takes it at school. She takes the milk carton, like, home with her. And then she kind of goes through her parents' things when they're not home.
In the attic or something.
In the attic, and finds like this name Hannah. And so you're kind of like led to believe, like, oh my gosh, was that her?
Yeah.
And they're hiding all this stuff. But then when she confronts her parents, they are older, they say that was their daughter who kind of got taken away by a cult or involved in a cult and showed up on their doorstep one day with Janie, the book's protagonist, when she was little, and said she didn't feel safe with her at the cult, whatever, and left her there with them. And that's why they didn't have her birth certificate. That's why they didn't know. So they don't, according to the book, if we're to believe the book, the parent she was living with did not know that she had been kidnapped.
Right.
By their daughter.
Right. Which was real confusing in the book.
Really, it was a little more clear in the TV
It was
movie.
Real confusing because of course, when they said that, I was like, oh, they're lying.
I know.
I said they're lying.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, that's their whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and conveniently, they haven't seen this daughter since.
Because it was just not. It was very murky. I don't know. It was it was murky, and then because then I was like, wait a minute. So she's in a cult, but that's still her. I was thinking that was still her kid, because then in the book it's revealed later that they kidnapped her from another family.
Correct.
Which was really it was not laid out well.
So at least in the movie, the way it was that Janie was kidnapped from a department store.
Yes, that was the same
by Hannah, the woman in the cult.
Right.
And then the woman in the cult took her to her parents and basically told this story about it or whatever. And they took her, thinking, because they hadn't seen her, because she'd been living this lifestyle that they weren't part of. So they thought, well, maybe she did have a baby, and the baby's a toddler now. And but what I found very unbelievable, both, and I know this was a different time, both in the book and the movie, was like they didn't see on the news that like a kid had been kidnapped. Like they didn't
Well,
notice.
they left or
they moved, but like
Yeah,
in the
I know.
immediate, like you wouldn't move the next day, would you?
Yeah, lots of plot holes. I don't know.
But anyway, so that was the story. And so in the first book, it ends with Janie deciding to call her quote unquote biological family because she's found them. And this is with her parents' support or whatever.
Well, Reeve,
right?
the boy next door who she has this affair with, his sister's a lawyer.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And they confront.
And she finds them.
Yeah. So that's how the first book ends. Okay. So
then I was like, okay, whatever. I don't care what happens next. I didn't. Some books like aren't that good, but you're like, well, I still want to know. What like I could think of several books that I'm like, sure, I want to know anyway, so I'm going to read the next. This one I was like, I don't care.
Like I'm moving on.
I don't care.
So the made-for-TV movie covers the first 2 books.
Okay, so what happens
and they intertwine it way more, so the timelines are different. But essentially, yes, Reeve and the sister kind of talk her into pursuing it. So first she drives over to their house and she's the address they find.
Yeah.
And she sees right. Yeah, so she sees them. Yeah. So then she actually confronts her parents about it and says, like, I want to contact them. And her mom, the quote unquote mom, dials it for her. Dials the missing person number. And into the phone, Janie says, "Hi, I saw this face on the milk carton. I think it's me." So then you kind of fast forward to then her family. Obviously, her mom and her dad, biological, have been looking for her all this time. They can't believe it's her, yada, yada, yada. So she ends up, they show like a very quick like mediation in a courtroom, and they decide that Janie will go live with her biological family for 3 months with no contact of her other family. And they must live relatively close to each other because they can drive back and forth.
Well, she drove. I remember her and that boy drove.
Yeah, they drove by or whatever.
Well, yeah, but it took them hours. So it was like the next day. They drove to New Jersey, and they live in not New Jersey.
Got it. So maybe in the miniseries or in the TV movie, they changed made it a little different.
Yeah. No, because they drove like all day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess they fast forwarded through that in the movie.
It doesn't really matter.
So she reluctantly goes to live with them, and now she's sharing a room with her little sister, and then the older brother has a lot of resentment towards her. So there's the family dynamic of the bio family is the parents are still married. She had an older brother, and it's revealed that he was supposed to be holding her hand in the store.
Whoa.
So he's been feeling guilt all these years. And then there's a little sister who was like a baby at the time.
There's twins in the book.
And then in the book, there's twins.
Yeah.
But in the movie, they weren't there.
Oh, okay.
It was just the 3 kids.
Got it.
And so, so as you can imagine, her whole world is like turned upside down, and her parents are like so thankful she's there, but like she doesn't know them.
Yeah.
And so there's tension, and then there's like moments where they bond, and then eventually she like misses her old life so much she tries to run away. And so then everybody comes together to try to find her, both the regular parent, the parents she's been living with, and the bio parents, and then they all bond over that. And then by the end of the made for TV movie, which I did read is what happens at the end of the second book, she does go back to live with the other parents, but it's like amicable. Like she's still going to go spend time with her new bio family.
3 more books after that?
All right.
Lord.
So I didn't put it all in here because it's a lot, but essentially there's that. So Hannah, the one who kidnapped her, comes back.
Oh yeah, I guess they probably have to
so they're back. Still looking for her, and then they get word that she died. Oh, actually, in the second book, they're told she died, but then by the third book, she's back. And then there's a whole book where they go to college, and like Reeve is questioning his own life, and then Reeve and her like biological brother. It's like a whole bunch of soap opera stuff that doesn't really have to do with the original premise at all, except for Hannah. Okay. And then in the 5th book, Hannah is finally arrested.
Seems like we could have done that all in one book.
It seems like we could have. So the TV movie had, do you remember, if I say this name, the actress Kelly Martin?
Kelly Martin. Yeah, she was in that show with the first Down syndrome actor that was on TV.
Life Goes On.
Life Goes On.
Yep, that's her.
Obla-dee, obla-da, life goes on.
I don't know the rest. La, 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 life goes on. I think that's it.
Yeah, there we go.
In a couple of years. I don't know.
Good.
Something. Anyway.
All right.
Yes, her. She was Janie in the made-for-TV movie.
I probably watched it back in the day.
And as soon as I saw her face, I was like, oh my God, she was in everything. She really was.
Yeah.
Because she was on that show. She was on The Hogans.
Yeah, The Hogans.
She was Daphne on the animated series of a pup named Scooby-Doo. So she was the voice. Then she was Troop Beverly Hills. She was a role on that. She alongside Shelley Long.
Mm-hmm. She was one of the kids.
Okay. All right. I've never seen that.
We're going to do a rewatch.
And this is crazy. When America's Funniest Home Videos, the pilot episode went live in 89, she co-hosted it with Bob
Saget.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Which, like, in 89, like, she would have been still pretty young. So I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, because Bob Saget would have been older. Anyway, she didn't stick around for that. So that's all I have on her. The other people in the movie,
random.
Like the mom, she looked familiar. I think I've seen her, like, she was quote unquote old in that movie, but like I've seen her in Hallmark movies and stuff. She's like one of those. I found it relatively enjoyable, mostly for the medium of it too. Just remembering the way that TV movies and after school specials and all that used to sort of be made. But I'll tell you what, I really like Kelly Martin.
Okay.
Her acting was really good.
Okay.
I really liked her. So anyway, that's really kind of all I have on it. Like, I just really wanted to see, like, why milk cartons and how. But then, of course, I learned about 2 abduction cases that I didn't know about in the process, and that made me sad. And I'm glad that we had this discussion about the young adult book, too.
Well, did it scratch your itch for milk carton questions?
I think so. I'm not sure how many more rabbit holes I could potentially go down about milk cartons. If they exist, we'll have to have a part 2.
I swear. It's funny because I was like, I don't even know, like, coming here today, I was like, I don't even know how this discussion is going to go.
Yeah. And I mean, it's sort of just like,
but that's just how we do sometimes, guys.
It's like, let's just talk about it.
Let's just do it.
We don't really have a solution. It was a thing that happened. If you were too young to remember that happened, now you know.
Yeah.
And if you're our age and you remember, and maybe you read this book or watched the TV movie,
I want to know how many of y'all have read this book back when it came out.
Right.
Like in the 90s.
And teachers, would you teach this book in class?
Maybe I did read it in middle school in class.
Maybe. Yeah. It was like number 79 on like a banned books list for a while because I just remember
they had
wrote
sex
that
in
down.
It or implied.
Because of like the sexual relationship, and then the cult, the talk of the cult. Some people thought was inappropriate.
Let's just pretend none of that exists in the real world. Like, it's fine.
And as someone who knows a little bit about cults, that's another episode.
Ooh.
They definitely oversimplify.
Yeah.
It was almost like she had issues. She was in a cult and we've never seen her again.
Right. Like, that's not that simple.
There's a lot more nuance than that. Mm-hmm. That's a story for another day, though, y'all. Anyway. Well, thank you for listening.
That's a way to end the episode. Damn.
little cliffhanger. Just kidding. We have nothing planned.
We got trivia, though.
We got trivia. Oh, yeah. Where are we at? Hold on. Everything got moved. Oh, it's over there. We do have trivia. We have our, if you haven't listened in a bit or you're new, at the very end, we always do an 80s trivia question and a 90s trivia question. I've got 80s today.
We forgot to do it with Jamila, so
yeah. Well, that episode was so long.
I know it was so. We were so hot. Satan got us talking. All right,
in a way, yes. Okay. Oh, no, I don't want that one. Hold on, I'm looking. Okay. Oh, I've got a good one. I've got a real good one.
Oh boy. Okay, you can go first.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, mine's from the 80s box. How much did it cost to make a call on a payphone in 1982?
A quarter.
No, 82 was only a dime.
Really?
That's what it says.
I always remember just quarter.
It says 10 cents, hence the expression, it's your dime.
Is that an expression?
I have no idea.
Are we supposed to know that?
I do know Jen will know. There's a Reba McEntire song called One Thin Dime that was probably sung around this time. And it's just a country song about how, like,
payphones.
You can call me. All it takes is a dime, basically. Right, Jen? Is that how it goes? So that's the only reason I might have guessed dime is because of Reba McEntire.
All right.
So it was 10 cents, everyone. 10 cents.
Oh, this is a good one for you.
Okay.
What links these clues together?
Okay. Uh-oh.
Ganon, magical shield.
Oh, God.
Link.
Well, it's got to be Zelda.
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda. As soon as you said magical shield, I started to be like, I bet it's Zelda. And then you said Link, who I thought was Lloyd.
No, was it Lloyd?
I think I said Lloyd.
I don't remember what you said.
But listen to our double Nintendo episodes if you haven't yet.
We've done a lot of shout outs for that one lately. Yeah. The arcade and stuff.
Well, I guess we had arcades and the Wizard, although this one has nothing to do with it, but trivia brought us. Trivia brought us to the video games.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. And make sure you listen to our Dawson Creek episodes.
Yes.
And come on,
we got 2 this week.
We got 2. We're catching up. And follow us over on Patreon and watch us on YouTube and leave us reviews and share us on social and send us DMs because we love those too.
Got that laundry list of items? That's
it. All you have to do. Do it all right now. And we will see you next time on Generation in Between.
Bye.
Bye.